going to tell you something that might just piss every other renewable energy podcaster off. Solar panels, they are made with dirty energy. Wind turbines, they do require rare earth minerals. Electric car batteries, they use child labor. And you know what? We're still going to electrify everything anyway. Welcome back to the SolarPunk Pro Podcast. I'm James Manzer, and today we're going to talk about why the math still works, even when you factor in all the ugly truths that greenwashing marketers don't want you to know. If you want to go from soul-crushing corporate work to a career that actually matters, that pays well, stick around and learn how you too can become part of the $4 trillion a year Electrify Everything and power it with renewable energy industry. Now, podcast statistics say that if you're listening to this right now, there is a good chance you might be winding down in bed after a long day of VLOOKUP tables. Or you're midway through your rage workout because your boss is making you stay late on a Friday because they thought your use of the Poppins font didn't look as professional as Arial. And now you have found me and you are wondering if this is what you're supposed to be doing with your life. Maybe you've got a decent salary, you've got some good benefits, a title that sounds impressive at dinner parties, but it does take you 10 minutes to explain what it is you actually do. You're also exhausted, you're uninspired, and you're secretly terrified that you're wasting the best years of your life daydreaming about burning down your office building, while the actual world burns down around you. If you're someone who gets climate science, but you're wondering whether we're just trading one environmental disaster for another, you're in the right place because I'm going to show you the actual numbers, the real life cycle analyses, the actual mining requirements, the honest energy payback calculations. And I'm going to explain why even the most cynical assessment still leads to the same conclusion. We must electrify everything, we must power with renewables, and we must do it fast. And if you stick around for the end, I'll tell you why our new energy secretary's claim that covering the earth in solar panels would only power 20% of our needs isn't just wrong, it's off by a factor of thousands. And there is a $1.3 billion a day fossil fuel profit hiding behind why he's saying it. So let's start with the line I love to use to open most of my talks around renewable energy. Who here that's listening to this podcast uses electricity? Oh, you do? Well, it's amazing. We have something in common. Yes, it's a silly question. 90% of the world's population uses electricity. You couldn't listen to this podcast without electricity. And the 10% that don't use electricity in the world, they want to. Now, let's ask the next question. Where does your electricity come from? Perhaps you have a coal mine in the backyard that you scamper down to every few days to collect a few lumps of the stuff and toss it into your dynamo. Or perhaps you're taking a break to listen to this podcast from your shift at the neighborhood oil derrick. Maybe you frack out behind the middle school soccer field and supply the fuel that you need to power your neighbor's power plant. No? Of course not. That's silly. Now, how about sunshine? Have you seen any of that stuff lying around the neighborhood? Have you felt a breeze across your face in the last day or two? Yeah? Okay, you get it? It really is that simple. Now, let's get to the stuff that makes environmentalists uncomfortable to talk about, and the hypocrisy that drives me absolutely insane. Solar panels are made with dirty energy. Wind turbines require rare earth mining. Electric car batteries use materials extracted by child labor. It's terrible. And you know what? The person who loves to post that gotcha comment on my Instagram, the one that did it last week, the troll that typed it in on a device that has the same exact problems, except worse. Because here's the mining reality. Solar panels, they have an average energy payback time of 1.5 years. Then they generate clean electricity for 40 plus years. Wind turbines, they require about 600 kilograms of rare earth materials, and they pay back their energy investment in about 3 to 6 months. EV batteries, yeah, they use lithium, cobalt, and nickel. And that is mining with documented labor issues. Grid infrastructure, it requires massive amounts of copper, steel, and concrete. But here's what pisses me off about these arguments. Where is the moral outrage about your iPhone? Or that Acer laptop you bought from Walmart. Does that $299 that you paid for your laptop cover the cost of cleaning up the toxic waste that will leach out from it because you're too lazy to take it to a proper recycling facility? After you download a virus by clicking on a pop-up that promised real photos of Elvis and Biden dancing disco in San Francisco? Because look, 70% of toxic chemicals in landfills are from e-waste, even though e-waste only makes up 2% of the trash. And no, none of that is from solar panels, wind turbine rotors, or EV batteries, because like you don't dump your Toyota off at the landfill, these devices are readily picked apart and recycled. Let me break down the hypocrisy. Your smartphone contains the same cobalt, lithium, and rare earth metals as EV batteries. Your laptop, it requires the same mining operations as solar panel manufacturing. Your gaming console is built with identical supply chains as wind turbine components. The difference? Your iPhone gets replaced every 2 to 3 years. A solar panel generates clean energy for 40 plus years. And as I like to remind the simple boomers, you're typing your concerns about dirty solar panels on a device that requires the same exact mining, except your device will be in a landfill in 3 years, while that solar panel will be generating clean electricity for your grandchildren. Here's what the critics won't tell you. The renewable energy industry is doing more to clean up these supply chains that they have inherited from those aforementioned technologies than any other sector in human history. Companies like Tesla for solar, Vestas, they publish detailed supply chain audits. The Responsible Minerals Initiative has over 400 renewable energy companies as members, working to eliminate conflict minerals. The Clean Energy Ministerial launched the Clean Energy Education and Empowerment Initiative, specifically targeting labor practices in renewable supply chains. Solar panel recycling is now profitable, with companies like Viola and PV Cycle that are processing thousands of tons annually. Meanwhile, how many tech companies publish audits of their cobalt supply chains? How many smartphone manufacturers have eliminated child labor from their operations? I'll wait. No? Let's run the math that destroys this argument. Solar panels pay back their environmental cost in 1.5 years, then provide 40 plus years of benefit. Your laptop, environmental costs with 0 environmental payback. It's pure consumption. One solar panel uses materials equivalent to about 50 smartphones, but generates clean energy for decades. And over 95% of solar panel materials are recyclable, while your old phone mostly goes to landfills. Because here's what nobody's talking about. These problems, they are creating massive business opportunities that pay incredible salaries. ESG compliance managers at renewable energy companies start at $90,000 a year. Supply chain sustainability directors, they earn $150,000 a year. Materials recovery engineers are building $100 million recycling companies. While internet trolls complain about mining from their cobalt-powered devices, smart people are building careers solving these exact problems. Clean mining technologies, supply chain auditing, materials recycling, ethical sourcing verification, these are the $100,000 a year careers for people who want to be part of solutions instead of just complaining about problems. Look, I am not saying renewable energy supply chains are perfect. I'm saying they're dramatically better than fossil fuel supply chains. They're improving faster than any other industry, and they actually provide environmental benefits that justify their material costs. Your iPhone, not so much. But somehow, the same people who upgrade their phones every couple of years are deeply concerned about the environmental impact of solar panels that work for 40 years. And you will never hear me say we should invest in electric vehicles ahead of investing in reliable public transportation. But you gotta admit, the cognitive dissonance is stunning. Okay, enough calling out the hypocrites. Let's run the actual numbers that climate doomers and fossil fuel lobbyists both ignore. When you do honest life cycle emissions analysis, solar and wind are well above 90% lower in carbon emissions than fossil fuels, even including manufacturing, mining, and installation. The energy return on investment for modern renewables is incredible. They pay back their energy investment 10 to 50 times over their lifetime. Yes, renewables require more upfront materials than fossil fuel plants, but then they require 0 ongoing fuel. Think about this. Picture it. A coal plant, it needs a constant stream of coal for its 40 years. Literal train cars full. A solar panel, it needs silicon once, and then generates electricity for 40 plus years. The land use, solar uses 99% less land than coal when you include all the mining, drilling, and transportation infrastructure. And here's the number that should and does terrify every oil executive. If we electrify everything and we power it with renewables, we reduce global material extraction by 80%. Not because renewables are perfect, but because burning stuff, it is incredibly wasteful. Every gallon of gasoline requires extracting, refining, and transporting crude oil. Every kilowatt hour from a solar panel after year 2, it's essentially free. The math, it isn't even close. But here's where it gets interesting for your career. Understanding these numbers make you incredibly valuable. Energy analysts who can run accurate life cycle assessments, they earn $95,000 a year in starting salaries. Sustainability consultants who can model environmental impacts are building 6-figure practices. While everyone argues about whether renewables are perfect, companies need people who can quantify exactly how much better they are. Speaking of math. All right, let me tell you about the most embarrassing, at least recently most embarrassing moment in energy policy history. And it was recent. It perfectly explains what happens when you put oil executives in charge of energy policy. In September 2025, and I'm recording this in September 2025, Chris Wright, founder and former CEO of Liberty Energy, a publicly traded oil and gas services company, and now our U.S. Energy Secretary, said in a tweet, if you wrap the entire Earth in solar panels, it would only power about 20% of what we need. This statement is so mathematically wrong that it should disqualify someone from running a lemonade stand, let alone the Department of Energy. But here's the thing, Chris Wright is a smart guy. He is not stupid. He is calculated. He knows exactly what he's doing. Because let's do the actual math. Earth's surface area is 510 million square kilometers. Modern solar panels, they operate at 22% efficiency, and with an average solar radiance of 1,000 watts per square meter and a global capacity factor of about, say, 25%, covering the entire Earth would generate approximately 1.1 million terawatt hours annually. Global energy consumption is about 180,000 terawatts annually. So, covering the Earth, that would be enough to power over 6,000 Earths, not 20% of one Earth. Secretary Wright was only off by a factor of about 30,000. But here's why he's lying, and not just wrong. So let me put this in perspective. The global fossil fuel industry, they generate about 4.8 trillion with a T in revenue annually. That is 13 billion with a B dollars in revenue every single day. Daily fossil fuel profits, they run between $1 and $2 billion per day. So every day that the renewable energy transition is delayed, the fossil fuel industry captures another $1 or $2 billion that goes into their pockets. So when Chris Wright, whose company Liberty Energy made $4.2 billion in revenue last year from oil and gas reserves, tells you renewables can't work, he is simply protecting billions in daily industry profits. The conflict of interest is staggering because Wright's Liberty Energy, it directly profits from fossil fuel extraction. His stock options, which he still has, are tied to continued oil and gas development. Every renewable energy project that gets built reduces demand for his services. So he literally gets richer when renewable energy deployment slows down. This is like doing something crazy like asking Philip Morris to run the Surgeon General's office and then being surprised when they say cigarettes are healthy. Wait, we did that one already. Because here's the reality. We need less than 1% of the Earth's surface for 100% renewable energy. We've already paved over 1% of the Earth's surface for roads and parking lots. The Sahara Desert alone could power the entire world multiple times over. Just existing rooftops could generate 40% of our electricity. And this isn't counting wind or the fact that we can also place solar panels over water to reduce evaporation while generating electricity. Japan, an island nation, so short on land, just installed 50,000 solar panels on one of their reservoirs. Or go like France and install solar over every parking lot. Shade, which helps reduce heat islanding, which we'll cover in a future episode, or in dual use of already developed land. It is a win, win, and win. So while our oil industry energy secretary spreads misinformation to protect billions in daily fossil fuel profits, private renewable energy companies are building trillion-dollar businesses based on actual calculations. Energy modeling specialists, they are earning $95,000 a year in starting salaries. Resource assessment engineers, they make $120,000 a year. Project developers who can accurately calculate renewable potential are building multi-million-dollar careers. Let me tell you about the other dangerous myth in environmentalism. It's that we need perfect solutions to act. See, we didn't wait for perfect sewage treatment to stop dumping waste in drinking water. We didn't wait for perfect cars to stop using horses. We didn't wait for perfect antibiotics to start treating infections. Progress happens when better solutions become available, not when perfect solutions exist. Current fossil fuel mining and drilling operations, they dwarf renewable material needs by orders of magnitude. We currently extract 15 billion with a B tons of fossil fuels annually. Now compare that to about 7 million with an M tons of materials that are needed for the equivalent renewable energy capacity. And sure, we could go back to living in caves and hunting and gathering and not need any material extraction, but needing only 0.04% to do the same exact work. I gotta tell you, that's some pretty easy math. And here's what critics ignore. It's technology trajectory. Solar efficiency, it has doubled, while costs have dropped 90% in just 15 years. Wind turbines now regularly exceed 50% capacity factors. Battery costs, they have dropped 90% since 2010. The innovation pipeline, it includes perovskite solar cells, iron air batteries, and green hydrogen that address our current limitations. We're in the Model T era of the energy revolution. So, are you really going to bet on horses and hay? While everyone's arguing about whether renewables are perfect, smart people are building the companies that make them better. Materials science engineers, they are developing next generation solar cells. Recycling technology specialists, they are building profitable battery recovery operations. Supply chain optimization experts, they are creating cleaner mining processes. These are the careers that will define the next decade. Not perfect solutions, but continuously improving solutions that are already dramatically better than what we're replacing. And when I say electrify everything, I'm not talking about some hippie utopia. I'm talking about the most efficient energy system humans have ever built. Electric motors, they are over 95% efficient. Compare that to 20% efficiencies for combustion engines. That means we will need 70% less primary energy to do the same work. Heat pumps, they are 300 to 500% efficient. Compare that to 80 to 90% for their gas furnace counterparts. No question. Electric steel production using green hydrogen, it eliminates massive coal consumption. Smart grids with demand response and storage, they create optimization that is impossible with fossil fuels. You cannot store coal in your garage and then sell it back to the utility when the prices are high. You can't throttle a nuclear plant up and down to match real-time demand, but you can do both with an electrified system that's powered with renewable energy. The economic reality is that renewables plus storage are now cheaper than fossil fuels in every market. And that gap, it is widening every year. This isn't about environmental ideology. It is about building energy systems so much better than what we have now, that fossil fuels, as they become economically obsolete. And here's what all the companies do not want you to know. Electrification, it isn't just about saving polar bears, although it does help save polar bears, and that is a good thing. But it is actually about building energy systems that are so much more efficient, so much less expensive, and so much more flexible. Fossil fuels can't compete. And this creates incredible career opportunities. Grid integration engineers, they earn over $150,000 a year solving intermittency challenges. Demand response specialists that are building software that optimizes energy use in real time. Energy storage system designs, they create infrastructure that makes this 100% renewables possible. Look, the genie's out of the bottle. The train, it has left the station. There is no putting this toothpaste back in the tube. Shall I go on? We got it? Great. So, do you want to know what an environmental catastrophe actually looks like? It is the status quo. We extract 100 billion tons of materials annually, mostly for fossil fuels. Air pollution, it kills 7 million people every year. Our current trajectory, it is leading us to a 3 to 4 degrees Celsius of warming, which means large parts of this planet, they become uninhabitable. Climate damage, it already costs us $150 billion a year annually in the US alone. And that's accelerating. The question isn't whether renewable energy is perfect. The question is whether it's better than burning stuff forever. And when you run those numbers, it isn't even close. But here's what every skeptic misses. Solving hard problems. It creates valuable careers. The complexity of energy transition, it requires people who can see the big picture, handle uncertainty, and solve multifaceted challenges. Every concern about renewables represents a business opportunity for people smart enough to build solutions. The $4 trillion with a T annual investment in clean energy, it creates jobs at every skill level, but especially it rewards systems thinkers and problem-solving skills. Early movers capture disproportionate value because they understand the value before it becomes obvious to everyone else. And look, I'm not here to convince you that solar panels are made by unicorns. Customers of mine, they are miffed when I tell them they can't run their heated outdoor pool, 8-room, 5,000 square foot home with its electric kiln with just 4 or 5 solar panels. And I used to joke that, solar is pretty cool, but it doesn't cure cancer. And then I realized it doesn't cure cancer, but solar does prevent cancer. I am here to convince you that when you honestly assess the alternatives, electrifying everything and powering it with renewables isn't just the best option we have, it is so obviously better than the status quo that the only real question is, how fast can we make it happen? And if you're someone who thinks critically about complex problems, if you can handle nuance and uncertainty, if you want to work on solutions instead of just complaining about problems, the renewable energy industry needs exactly what you have to offer. While oil industry executives continue to spread misinformation to protect their billions in daily profits, while internet critics complain about mining from their cobalt-powered phones, while government officials make elementary math errors, smart people are building careers in the industry that's actually solving problems. So here's what I want you to do. If you're tired of using your analytical skills to optimize ad spend or manage corporate bureaucracy while real problems go unsolved, I've got something for you. I just finished 100 Careers That Will Power the Future, the ultimate guide to jobs in the Electrify Everything economy. This isn't some generic career guide. This is 100 specific roles with salary ranges from $45,000 a year to upwards of over $500,000 a year. It is organized by the skills you already have. The guide includes which cities are hiring, which skills command premium salaries, and exactly how to position yourself. Because while critics argue about whether renewables are perfect, companies need people who understand they're dramatically better than the alternatives. Or maybe you want a personal strategy session. I offer 30-minute industry analysis calls where I'll map out the specific companies, the incentive programs, career paths in your area. We'll look at your background and we'll figure out your highest probability path into the industry. It's completely free. Think of it as my way of paying it forward, because honestly, the faster we get talented people like you in this industry, the faster we solve the supply chain issues, perfect the technology, and build the economy of the future. The renewable energy industry, it does not care about your perfect timing. It cares about your willingness to work on problems that actually matter. While others debate whether the solutions are perfect, early movers are building the careers that will define the next decade. So 3 years from now, you'll either be part of the solution or you'll still be complaining about why the solutions aren't perfect. And you'll also be trying to find someone to buy that horse of yours. So what's it gonna be? I'm James Manzer, and this has been the SolarPunk Pro Podcast.